So welcome to the Special Olympics Maryland Unified Champion Schools Back to School webinar. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Now, before we get started, just a few group norms that I'd like to reiterate for the evening. All participants will remain on mute throughout the session, and if you have any questions or comments, please utilize the chat box feature. We'll be monitoring the chat through this webinar, and we'll make sure that we address any lingering questions at the end of the presentation. As an important note, this session is being recorded, and that recording will be distributed to all registered participants along with a copy of all of these slides. So keep an eye out for that and all of our other follow-up materials that we'll be sending out after this presentation is over. So we'll briefly touch on the slides here in this webinar session, and then we'll send out follow-up materials that will elaborate much more and that you can view at your own leisure. So that's good. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome you all again, and we will begin tonight with a welcome from Jim Schmutz, our president and CEO here at Special Olympics Maryland. So Jim, I would just like to extend a welcome to you and thank you very much for being here. And I will be turning the microphone over to you now.
Thanks, Veronica. I appreciate it. I know we've got a lot to cover tonight, so I'll be brief. I just really want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us this evening. Obviously, we're in unprecedented times, and just really want to reinforce our commitment to being a good partner with everybody who has joined us and all the schools with whom we work across the state. It's an exceptional opportunity for us to be in partnership with you in creating the next unified generation. You are contributing to creating a world where opportunity is not limited by disability, and the interactive, inclusive experiences that you provide both on the field and off the field are really changing the world. So on behalf of all our athletes across the state and their families, I just want to thank you for everything that you do every day to make the world a better place. So thanks very much. I look forward to the evening's presentation.
Thank you, Jim, for that welcome message. So I'd like to take the next moment to just run through some team introductions so you know who we have on the line tonight and what ways that they serve the mission of Unified Champion Schools. So the voice behind the screen currently is myself, Veronica Smaldone. I am an AmeriCorps member serving this year with Unified Champion Schools in Western Maryland. Also joining us tonight, we have Jeff Abel, who heads the team for local program development. Emma Bush, who is also an AmeriCorps member. She's serving Unified Champion Schools on the Eastern Shore. We've got Frank Farrell, our VP of Development. Mackenzie Irvin, who works with our youngest athletes. Betsy Giron, who is working hard on our law enforcement torch run, which is virtual this year. We're also joined by Melissa Kelly, the Senior Director of the Unified Champion Schools program here in Maryland. We will hear from Kara Marinek, who joins our team as one of 2 inclusive youth leadership managers, and Angela Nadeau, who is in charge of unified sports at the high school level. And lastly, we have Jason Schrimmel, who knows all things athlete leadership, Sue Snyder, our unified PE consultant, Ben Varga, who concentrates on the health and fitness of our athletes, and lastly, Caprice West, our second inclusive youth leadership manager. And speaking of Caprice West, we'd like to take a moment to shout her out for being named Special Olympics North America's Most Outstanding Coach in 2019. So Caprice works in Anne Arundel County and is very deserving of the award. So we're happy to have her on the team, again, as one of our inclusive youth leadership managers. So congratulations, Caprice, Coach. So to get us started, as many of you know, the purpose of Special Olympics Maryland is through sport to create a world where opportunity is not limited by disability. And this is accomplished by activating the power of people of all abilities and all ages. It truly is an opportunity that lasts a lifetime for our athletes. And the Unified Champion Schools program is an integral piece of this, you can see this lifespan of participation, because it cultivates foundational life skills and values in the school environment where the next generation of our students are learning, and not only learning academically, but learning to find their voice, realize their potential, and really build character that they'll carry with them through their lives. So the goal of Unified Champion Schools is to create school climates where students of all abilities are routinely included and engaged in their school community. And this is done using the passion and leadership of students with and without intellectual disabilities. Now, Unified Champion Schools programming has been proven in both the virtual and in-person settings to strengthen valuable school goals like social and emotional security, social and civic learning, and school connectedness and engagement. And this year, we're staying conscious of the fact that as challenging as this year is for general education students, there is a population of students, particularly, say, students with disabilities, that are likely enduring even more adversity for any number of reasons. And of course, we recognize that only you know the needs of your students and you know your school climate. Our team is here to offer what resources we have at our disposal to support you and your students in the ways you feel are needed for this year. And on that note, as of last year, we served 247 Maryland schools. They were involved with Unified Champion Schools, but only a fraction of those schools offered the full complement of Unified Champion Schools. So the purpose of this webinar is to briefly showcase the full menu of Special Olympics Unified Champion Schools programming for your consideration. And a lot of schools are already fulfilling many Unified Champion School goals through their own efforts. So our team can work to bolster these efforts and recognize the value of the work that a lot of schools have already been putting in. So as this diagram depicts, Unified Champion Schools combines 3 core components that work together to create a program with holistic effects on a school climate. So tonight we'll be demonstrating each component, that is inclusive sports and activity, inclusive youth leadership, and whole school engagement, after which we will cover the added component of sustainability, which makes sure we prepare for longevity in the implementation of the program. And finally, we'll describe the Unified Champion School banner recognition programs that are in place, one at the Maryland state level and one at the national level. And we'll talk about how schools can work towards achieving those very exciting honors. So at this time, I'd like to welcome you all to our Unified Champion School virtual classroom. We will launch each of tonight's topics from this room, and I'd like to apologize if this slide caused a knee-jerk reaction for any of you virtual educators out there. We thought it would be a fun way to incorporate some of the practices of this school year into our resources and into this presentation.